back to the MAINcast. My name is Stephen Nyman, and I'm so excited to bring you another edition of the SOS4 Theater Festival. This week, we have the MAINcast of Aloha Attire, presented by the Kumu Kahua Theatre, by and about people of Hawaii, written by Lee Cataluna, directed by Kevin Doyle. We're so excited to bring another show from another state into Santa Clarita. This show is from Hawaii. Please join us every Tuesday for another MAINcast, and don't forget to join us every Friday for another show. Join us this Friday for Aloha Attire. Now, if the cast and crew of Aloha Attire could please arrive, we can start this wonderful interview process. Hello. Welcome. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm so excited. So I kind of like to start out with a very clear introduction of who we are, what do we do, what are we excited about with the show. So I think we'll go in order. We'll go Lee, and then we'll go down to Veronica, and then Iris, and I don't want to butcher the name.
Do you know?
What?
Do you know?
Suyuno. Thank you. It's Suyuno. And so we'll go Lee, Suyuno, Veronica, Iris. So that's the order.
Right.
So if you could all introduce yourselves.
Cool. I'm Lee Cataluna. I am the playwright of Aloha Attire. I have worked with Kumu Kahua for many years. And this play, though, was a completely different experience. And how exciting to be now here connected with the Main. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I'm Suyuno Amos. I am the office manager at Kumu Kahua, and I also acted in Aloha Attire as well.
I couldn't remember the order. Sorry, everyone. I was like, is it me? I'm Veronica. I'll just take over. I'm the digital engineer for Kumu Kahua Theatre. I've been doing all of the backstage and taking Zoom and making it not look like Zoom.
Hi everyone, I'm Iris and I'm an actor. I played in Aloha Attire. This is my first Kumu Kahua show, and I'm also a new resident of Hawaii. So what a wonderful introduction to my island life here.
So I think it's pretty incredible that we're able to bridge, especially on Zoom, we're able to bridge the gap from state to state, country to country, and really introduce theater to more of a variety of audiences. Speaking on that note, what's the theatrical world like in Hawaii right now? What is the COVID restrictions? What are some of the challenges that you all have in Hawaii right now? And what's the theater life like in Hawaii usually? What if somebody was it wasn't COVID and somebody went to Hawaii? How do they go see theater? What's it like? Give them a little lowdown.
So, you want to take that?
Sure. I feel like non-COVID times, normally we have a pretty vibrant community theater community here on Oahu. And right now, for Kumu Kahua in particular, we've decided to move online. Our house is usually a really small black box that only seats about 100. So physically, maybe we're one of the smallest theater spaces, aside from maybe one other theater company that I can think of. So we are staying online, but we have seen some of the bigger venues starting to do in-person houses of about maybe 25 to 50 people. I'm not really sure. So that's been really exciting to see them starting to do that stuff again.
Yeah. Right now, we're the Main is an 81 seat house. So we're at this, we're not open yet, but eventually, hopefully. But yeah, 81 seats compared to your 100. So you beat us by 19. But I think that's amazing. That's really really cool because you would never. I think theater is just so accessible around the world, and it's just so cool to kind of through Zoom we have now bridged this gap. And I think moving on to the show and moving on to can somebody just give us a little bit of a lowdown on the show without giving too much away? We really want people to watch Friday night, but give us a little bit of here's a sneak peek. Here's something really cool. This is what I'm excited about.
I don't know. That seems like a Veronica thing.
I was
feel the
gonna say
energy, yes.
Lee. No.
I'll give too much away.
I think what I really loved about working on Aloha Attire was that it was written for the space, right, Lee? So it was the first time I got to play with green screens and making it look like we have two characters in the same space. And what does that look like with our limited amount of technology that we have all together? So
Yeah.
Aloha Attire, I think, is about friendship and family, and the questions and the world around that, and how we could bring some of these stories that weave together in a fun way and make people laugh and smile and feel feelings even through the medium of Zoom. And everyone is separate, so when you do see it, there are no two actors that are in the same room together. So that was the most exciting thing for me.
I love it. I love the OBS system. We've had plays previously in the SOS Theater Festival. You can go back to our backlog that have been on the OBS system, and it just does such a lovely job of trying to bridge that gap between theater and Zoom life. Lee, I think this question has to be for you, and I need you to answer it. What does the inspiration for this play come from? Like, where did you get inspired to write this play?
Okay, yeah, I should answer that. So this past season, 2021, was Kumu Kahua's 50th anniversary, which when you think about, a community theater in a place like Hawaii, 50 years and supporting, like original work, right? It's a playwrights theater. For them to be there for 50 years is such an achievement. It just really speaks to, support of the arts and love of story in our community. So the theater approached approached 5-6 playwrights and said, we want you to write special plays representing each decade of the theater's existence. And I picked the 80s because, I was alive in the 80s. I remember Hawaii in the 80s. So there was a 70s and 80s and 90s. Anyways, so that was pretty much the season. And so I wrote a completely different play for the season. And it was not ready to go, but it was pretty, I was polishing it and working with a cast and a director, a dramaturg, and then COVID. And then, the call from the artistic director saying, well, we're going to do this stuff online. We're just going to try. And do you want your play to be online? Will you agree to that? And I thought about it. I thought, no, that's going to suck. Like that play is just going to stink online. It's not going to work. Like all the things that I thought were clever are just going to be weird. And so I told him, just give me a second to think about it. And so like, seriously, I took 2 days and I'm like, I know what I could do. So I completely wrote a different play, and Aloha Attire is it. And the idea came from Native Voices at the Autry, which I love with my whole heart. And Native Voices had every year they do the short play festival, and there is a prompt that they give playwrights. And last summer, the prompt was about clothing or traditional, adornments, or and so it was called More Than Moccasins. And so that was sort of the challenge. And I thought, ooh, I like that. Like as someone who is Native Hawaiian, thinking about what is considered, Hawaiian clothing by people outside of Hawaii, but also by the people who live here. What do we wear that we say makes us Hawaiian or makes us look Hawaiian that really isn't? And I just I kept writing about that, that theme. And so that was the original inspiration, was that prompt from Native Voices. And when I thought about what can I write specifically for Zoom, what's going to have enough flexibility so I can rewrite and fix during rehearsals on Zoom and get the actors to fix for me also, Iris. I was thinking about that. So I wanted to write about what we wear, what it says about us. Does it make us comfortable? And in most cases, my answer was no. No, it's costume. A lot of it is costume or, attempts to look something. And, also at that time, we were talking about Hawaiian shirts and the Boogaloo Boys and what the hell, what? You guys take that off. So, a lot of those thoughts were kind of mixed up into this particular play.
Yeah, I mean, it's really funny. For the audience who might not know about the Autry, you can actually go back a couple main cast, and you can see our interview with Roman Zagara, and he is from the Autry, and he is part of Native Voices, and he's done stuff with them. So please, we encourage you, go watch that, but also watch this main cast, but enjoy all of the events at the main. But yes, the Autry, I love the Autry, and like to kind of bridging into the theme conversation where we talk about theme, it feels like there's this the themes of Aloha Attire cannot be summed down, but they can be kind of one of the themes could be what we wear and who we identify as, but identified through clothing. But also, would you say like the native voices of who you are is within your clothes? So it's also like a statement on as Hawaii is right now. Or
yeah. And I also, what was going on at the time, sort of across our country, right? We're all stuck at home. We're all cleaning out closets. So that, I wanted to write about contemporary, what we wear in Hawaii, but I had this assignment that it had to be set in the 80s, right? I tried to talk the theater out of that one part, like, I'll write you a whole new play. Does it have to be in the 80s? Shucks, it does. But, 80s Aloha Attire in Hawaii, it was crazy because it was the 80s. So that left a lot of, runway.
Trust me, I've seen my dad's closet. I've seen people wear in the 80s.
Yep. So because, so many of us were just stuck at home and cleaning out closets and sort of, going through this like personal archaeology at the time that sort of worked itself in. And that was the contemporary side, right? Iris's character, Des, was literally unpacking her family's history. And so each thing she found in the box sort of led to a story, like the article of clothing almost told its story.
Yeah. Iris, do you want to talk about your experience as, virtually acting and what was, is this your first time in a Zoom play or is this your multiple times? And what's been your experience working with this group, but also what's just your experience as an actor? Like, how have you approached the role in this virtual environment?
Okay. Oh, that's so many questions. Oh, let's
take your time.
My role. So as Lee mentioned, this story started with my unpacking of my family history.
Yeah.
I found a box of my mom's, and then I'm also a YouTuber in the show. So it's like, here, look at my family. And then it unfolds to a story. So I think one of the challenges is, challenge, but also it fits my role is that I have to talk to a camera. So in a virtual theater, I will be talking to the audience, or I will at least have an audience with me. But here, I'll be talking straight, not at the screen, but at my camera, the green dot. And in the beginning, it's very challenging because it's just not like a physical theater. But then my role is also a YouTuber, so trying to find what it's like to be a YouTuber and feeling that this is my home, this is my comfort space, just to talk to a camera, imagining there's an audience. So it's a challenging, but also a blessing because it's just what I do for fun. And another thing, and also one of the things I've learned in the process as an actor is how do I imagine that I'm still talking to someone who is alive on the other side, rather than feeling, oh, I'm just talking to a camera. And one of the nights I invited a bunch of my friends from China, England, also Malden, Massachusetts, where I spent most of my life. So I had my high school principal, I had my college best friends, all on the other side on YouTube watching this being broadcast. So it was really interesting to speak to the camera and knowing that, oh, I'm also speaking to my high school principal, my best friends, through the Green Dot. Yeah, and another challenge is that I can't be with the main cast in this whole process, and that's one of the things I really enjoyed while I'm in a physical theater. Even though I like to have my own little space, but just knowing that the other actors and everyone, and on the crew, cast and crew, they're all with me, knowing that they're not there physically, but they're here virtually online because we have this Zoom space where we get to see our prepping area, or we each individually have a rehearsal area on Zoom. So even though on the other side, YouTube is being broadcast, but on our own Zoom, we get to see everyone's faces. So I could be doing my own prep, but I get to see exactly what everyone's doing. And the great thing is that I get to watch the whole thing from start to finish every single night, versus in a real space, in a physical space. I wouldn't be able to do that because I would be in the back, having my own little space. Yeah. So some of the pros and cons of Zoom acting.
Yeah, definitely. I think like it's incredible. I think too, like we're in this kind of realm right now. It's like we're recorded Zoom plays, live Zoom plays. I think like it's this really weird space we're in. So I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying to see the experimentation people are taking, especially now that this play has been designed with OBS in mind. So actors feel like they're in the same space. They're actually put in a location. So moving on to our final question, because we do have a limited amount of time. I want to hear more about the theater company. I want to hear, do you have anything coming up? What is coming up at the Kumu Kahua Theatre? Did I say it correctly? Yes, I did. All right.
Well, we're getting ready for our final show in this 50th season, as Lee mentioned. And so we've moved from the 70s and now we're in the 2000s. So the next show that's coming up is the Untitled TMT Project, which is about the 30-meter telescope on Mauna Kea and all of the controversy surrounding that. So that's coming up June 10th to the 27th. It will be running online again. Veronica is probably working on that right now. And, it's been interesting how each show this season has evolved in this virtual space. So I think, actually our previous show started doing in-person filming. So actually a lot of that show was pre-recorded and there was like one live narrator character. So I think with this show, we're also doing some pre-recorded stuff in the actual physical theater space, which will be a new thing. And I think a lot of our, our regular patrons who are missing being in the space so much will really enjoy just seeing it in the show. And then we're gearing up for next season. And our plan is to stay online for the next, I think the first 3 shows of the upcoming season. So we're not going back to being in person until maybe March of 2022. So we're just excited to see how these virtual evolutions continue to grow over the next almost year or so.
So this play is the 80s, and then we need the audience to go watch the 90s, the 2000, and the 2010. Yeah.
Yeah, so we had for the 90s, we had a micro story by Daniel A. Keelan II. And that was honestly such an important story. It was about the Micronesian Marshall Island specific experience of migrating to Hawaii and how difficult that journey can be. So that was our 90s. And then, Untitled TMT Project is covering us in the 2000s.
So I encourage you to come see the other shows for the Kumu Kahua Theater, because we need to support, and if we're in the 80s, we should travel with them into the future. So please, thank you all so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. Thank you to Phil Lantis, Jeff Barber, and the rest of the City of Santa Clarita team and staff, because without you, the show would not be possible. I also want to give a special thanks to you, our patrons, who keep coming back to watch our shows regularly, watch our events, have been with us for a whole year of COVID, and continue to give back to the Maine. Thank you all so much for being here. My name is Stephen Nyman, the host of the SOS4 Theater Festival. Have a wonderful rest of your night, morning, afternoon, or day.